Good evening, everyone. The Runnemede Board of Education meeting is called to order. The Board of Education is in compliance with Chapters 231 of the Public Laws of 1975 entitled the Open Public Meetings Act. The time, date, and location of this meeting was appropriately advertised by notifying the retrospect, as well as posting notices in the Borough Hall, Runnemede Post Office, Mary Volt School, Align Bingham School, Grace Downing School, and the Runnemede Public School District website. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, board members.
Yes.
Mr. Lego? Mr. Murray? Ms. Panzarella? Ms. Sams? Ms. Spalding?
Here, Mrs. Beebe has a work meeting that she cannot get out of. Also present, Mark Iannucci, Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Sean McCarron, Business Administrator, Director of Curriculum Instruction. I see Mr. Steve Maloney, Vice Principal, Volt School, Mrs. Gladys Hubbard, Director of Special Education, Mr. Frank Hines, Supervisor of Building and Grounds. There they are, Ms. Jade Yazzie, Principal, Bingham and Downing School, and Mr. Steve Peely, Principal, Volt School. At this time, I need a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for February 16th, 2021. Motion made by Maria, and I can hear her much better this month. Is that a second by you? The second by Dennis? Any questions on the meeting minutes? Roll call.
Ms. Adair? Mr. Buckheim? Ms. Davidson? Mr. Lego? Mr. Murray? Ms. Panzarella? Ms. Sams? Ms. Spalding?
Yes.
Motion passes.
At this time, I am going to give it over to Dr. McCarron for, and I believe Dr. McCarron, correct, for the 21-22 budget presentation.
Okay, everyone, so we are presenting tonight on the 21-22 budget. This evening, you will be, the board will be voting for the submission of this year's budget to the County Department of Education to make sure that everything within the budget for educational purposes, financial purposes, is all encompassing and that everything is correct. So with that being said, tonight you are voting to submit it to the county for approval. If there's any changes that are required, I will get those before our next Board of Ed meeting, April 27th, which is the fourth Tuesday of the month instead of the third. And the reason for that is because we have a 1 week time span where we have to do our budget public hearing. Prior to that, we will be putting in the retrospect the entire full budget for the school year. We have to do that annually and advertise it to the public as well. So this evening we'll be going through that, and that's kind of the process that we follow along the way. So where we currently are. So in this budget for this year, our budget is for $18,410,629. For our current budget for the 2021 school year, we are looking at coming out of this budget with $1,625,000. The thing I always like to preface this with, because some people will look at that number and think that's a large number. Those numbers are planned. And the reason why those numbers are planned is that when things come up, when our buildings need to be upgraded, when there's maintenance issues that are taking place, we need to make sure that we have the money in order to put that into our budget for the upcoming years from capital reserves and maintenance reserves. So as you can see that with that $1,625,000, that money is automatically being placed into certain revenue accounts that we have and reserve accounts. So $1,125,000 will be going into capital reserves. That's large projects. $350,000 will be going into maintenance reserves. Maintenance reserves has a capped limit that we have to stay at, so we always want to make sure that we replenish that. Right now, we had issues with mold back in August. We were able to do that emergency resolution, and that money was pulled from maintenance reserves. So it was good that we had the money there because we were only covered for a certain amount under our insurance policies for that situation. So we're going to replenish that funding there to make sure that we have that available. And then money to support the 21-22 budget is $150,000. And you'll see that that's the average amount that we bring into each budget annually to support it. If there is additional money that we come out of this year's current year's budget with, that will most likely be placed in capital reserves. If we come out a little bit under $1,625,000, because we still have a few months of this year left, that money would also be coming out of capital reserves. So that's kind of our swing account. Any questions? No? Okay. Okay, sorry, my face is blocking one of the pieces that I have to read. So the money that we're coming out of the 2021 budget is due to reduced costs in the areas of transportation, supplies, athletics and extracurricular activities, professional services, which would be Brett DeNovi or our substitute services, and then also unspent reserve funds. So a portion of our 2021 needs were offset by state funding and support, such as the CARES funding, the initial amount we got, the coronavirus relief funding that we received, the digital divide funding that we also received, and the CARES 2 money, which we just got. While we can spend it in this year, we're most likely not going to spend it this year. We'll push it into the 21-22 budget. Any questions thus far? You know I talk quickly. Okay. So with all of the funding that we received this year and looking at our current state of budget, for this year, our tax levy, you know, in past years, and I said this to the Finance Committee, we always have increased costs and we always have to plan for keeping our facilities updated and making sure that we keep our facilities in good condition for our students and staff. So I've always recommended the 2% increase. This year, I will not be recommending the 2% increase. It was decided that we would go with a 0% tax levy increase, so it would remain flat. Just to give everyone an idea, 1% tax levy increase is equal to about $75,000. A 2% tax levy increase is $150,000. We are able to take up to 2% each year in tax levy increase without a vote from the public. When we don't take 2%, whatever we don't take, so if we took 1.5%, that 0.5%, if we took 1%, that 1%, goes into what is called banked cap. Banked cap is where that percentage remains, and it remains there for 3 years until that time is exhausted. If the district was in financial strains 2 years from now, can you hear me?
No, I can hear you. I was just asking my colleagues if they knew that.
Okay.
I did not know that.
I was like, if I have to start going over this entire presentation again,
I had never idea you could bank like that. Correct. I know it's not the norm, but that's why I asked almost everything.
So as an example though, back in 2021, the spring school year, we took 1%. So that meant 1% is currently sitting in bank cap for this year. Next year, 21, 22, and 22, 23. Now we have an additional 2%. So what that means though is, let's say in 22, 23, our funding was really poor from the state. We were losing a lot of money and we needed to bring more money in. We would be able to take our annual 2% plus the 3% that's sitting in banked cap and take 5% without a public vote. I am not saying we're going to do that. I'm just explaining that that's how banked cap works. If there is a need, it is there. However, at this time, we don't foresee a need being there. So the tax rate to create the 21-22 budget is 1.501. The average home in Runnemede is $148,194. School taxes would be $2,224.98. Overall, when you look at an average, if you look at $100,000, because the ratables did not change that much from one year to the other, and because of the fact that the home price increased slightly, but not that much, on $100,000, you would be saving 20 cents at this point in taxes for school tax. So it truly is a flat 0% increase funding when you look at it from that perspective. A few additional funds that are coming in. So in state aid, our actual state aid numbers, we received $587,000 extra under equalization aid, which allows us to allocate those funds in multiple places throughout the district. We received an additional $608,651 in ESSER 2 funding. So ESSER funding and then CARES funding are interchangeable. We've already received the CARES 1 funding. This is now CARES 2. And that was just announced in March of 2021. They say that you can start spending it immediately. The grant application just opened this past week. The grant application, and something I always like to tell people and make sure you're aware, is it's not that schools are just provided with the money. There's an entire application process that then goes with the money. There's then also protocols in order to receive the money, and also additional reporting that you have to do on top of your federal grants that are already there in order to show that you spend the money correctly and that you spend it in the correct areas. With this, $529,660 is the general allocation. $33,991 is to go towards learning acceleration. That could be tutoring. That could be additional supports. That could be a number of things that we can get creative with. $45,000 has to go towards mental health funding. The conversation that we've been having as we discuss this is to keep in mind the fact that this funding is one-time funding. So you want to be careful with what you're bringing in with one-time funding, because you might bring in a great resource, but then it's going to be gone after that funding is spent. So that's something that we're looking at and considering. In terms of our ESSER 1 money, which is the original CARES money we received, we will be bringing over $30,000 of unspent CARES 1 money into the 21-22 budget. We will not have funds brought into this budget from food service or before and after care. Both of those enterprise establishments, food service and before and after care, are self-sufficient. They are able to manage appropriately. However, we will not be bringing in any funding as we have in past years. And we're hoping to rebuild that as we bring more students back to school and as we continue in that direction. And then finally, our preschool budget is $1,134,155. That's a $100,000 increase from the 2021 school year. Questions on the funding piece? Okay. Next, to go over some personnel for 21-22. Go for it. Turn it over to Mr. Arnici.
Good evening. A couple of things we're looking to add to the 21-22 school year regarding personnel, and we talked about this. A community parent involvement specialist, which would be a full-time position, would be funded through the preschool grant. This person hired would be working not only with our teachers and students, but also working with parents to bring it into the community. So it's something we're looking forward to. That person will probably have some type of background in social work and also working in communities. So we hope to have that person named hopefully sometime in May, so we can get started right away in July. Also, one of the things we've talked about the last couple of years, we've had so much success with our ELA intervention specialists that we have in district. Our staff has given us some feedback over the last year or so that we really don't have anybody working in a math intervention specialist position. So that's also something we'd like to look to increase, where they would be working with teachers in grades kindergarten through 8th grade, as well as students. How about now? Where did I stop?
Intervention.
Intervention? Okay. So we're looking to add that math intervention specialist as well, working with those students in grades K through 8, as well as staff members. The BCABA behavior specialist is something we'd look to bring back to the district. Currently, we use Brett Denovi for those services. I believe that's 3 days a week. This position that we create that we had a few years ago, before we had to go back out to Donovi, was the person would be in district 5 days a week. And we kind of used that person through all 3 buildings as well. The registered behavior techs, the training, we talked about that about 2 years ago, when a lot of our instructional aides did become registered RBTs, as they call them. And we provide a stipend for those staff members that do that. When we do that this time, we really want, when we hire these people and they get that RBT certificate, letting them know that they'll be working with our more severe kids in our special needs population, because that's what they'd be trained for. And then as well as a MD teacher for the middle school. This wouldn't be a new position. It would be through retirements and things like that we've had some mid-year retirements this year. We'll be looking to move some people around in-house. That would open up that opportunity for the MD teacher in the middle school. And we, over the last, I'd say 12 or 14 months, we have lost a number of instructional aides. Some of them we've been unable to replace. So that's another thing we are looking to do for the 21-22 school year. Questions on that? Personnel-wise? Sure.
Our staff that have gotten trained with the
RBTs, yep.
how many of those staff will be retired?
I don't, they're all of them. But yeah, we haven't had it. No, we're looking to increase, as we continue to, increase our students with special needs in the district and to keep them in district, which we want to do, but we need people,
It's for the aides. It's for aides.
Yes.
It used to be 4,000. Now it's up to, they want to, we're up to 5,000, correct?
That's one thing we're looking at, and that's also the stipend they get for doing the training that it takes to get it. So they get that additional money, and then they get $4,000 a year, 4 times a year, $1,000 stipends.
Yes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they have to stay for a year after they get it?
yeah.
And do we also do we reimburse them for the class?
All of the classes are reimbursed. Their time is also reimbursed. So in training new people, that's why it's listed as $5,000 and not $4,000, because that initial year they get paid for the training that they do. We reimburse them for their test that they take and also the certification piece that they pay for. And then after that, it's a $4,000 stipend that's given annually, and it's spread out 4 times throughout the year.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
You want to go back to your numbers and crunching and facilities and things like that?
Okay, so the next piece we're talking about is our facilities. So when we look at our capital reserve projects, this is something that we have to advertise annually to the public. If we don't advertise, just so everyone understands, like when we approve the April budget, it's an extremely important time, and also the wording that we use is extremely important. If we don't advertise to the public that we are doing something, we cannot do it unless it is a true emergency in some way, shape, or form. So imagine the gym roof blowing off. Then we get to redo the gym roof, which actually happened a few years ago. But with that being said, if it's not listed here, it is not happening. So you guys might be looking at this and saying, wow, you've been doing flooring projects for years. We have been doing flooring projects for years because flooring projects come up each year. HVAC work has been getting done for years. Why? Because we've been doing HVAC work for years as we're able to. So as of right now, as I always like to say, none of these projects that we're doing are pretty projects. Unfortunately, it's a lot of work that people are going to come back at the beginning of the year and be like, oh, this school looks exactly like it did before. However, 2 of the main things that we're doing is we're repointing Bingham and Downing. At Bingham, we are repointing the entire outside of 2 of our main walls, which is all of the masonry between all the mortar that goes between all of the bricks. So you'll be seeing scaffolding set up on 2 sides over at Bingham. And these are 2 sides that we've been having issues with over years. So it's really securing the building. Underneath that, you see that we're also doing asphalt repairs on an additional 2 sides because of water that we've been managing over the years and making sure that our buildings are as secure as possible. And we're keeping up with that work. Over at Downing, we will be doing all 4 sides of the building with the pointing work. And of course, it's more expensive because it's 3 levels. So that means the scaffolding, has to be put up. All that stuff is going to be in order. And you can see that that comes with a very large cost. Bingham at 240, Downing at 450,000. We're also doing asphalt work, and the whole point of that is regrading the asphalt to ensure the fact that water is going away from the building instead of coming near or puddling in certain areas. So that's also going to be a large job that we're doing. In all three of our schools, we still have a few classrooms that have carpeting, and one of the reasons why we haven't touched that in the past is because it has asbestos tile underneath. In order for us to do that, we have to do asbestos abatement. We have to make sure that it sits. We have to bring an environmental specialist. That alone is about a 3-day process from start to finish before we can then even have the flooring companies come in to do that work as well. And then finally, HVAC and boiler upgrades. We are constantly trying to, if you talk to Frank, he always has a job he wants to do when it comes to our HVAC units. So we're working on that boiler upgrades because, as you know, there's money that we're hearing that we're getting more money from the state as well, or the federal government as well too. So we want to make sure that we have that in line. If we aren't able to do all of our boiler upgrades this year, that would be a capital project in 22-23. If we're able to get that work done in the current 21-22 budget, we are going to try to do that, or pieces of that. Any questions? And you can say that total cost is one. So if you go back to that funding page, is it the funding page? No, I'm sorry, that first page. We're bringing over $1,125,000 to put into capital reserves, and then we're immediately taking out $1,025,000 to do capital reserve projects for this year. In regards to curriculum, Fontes and Pinnell Classroom is something that we brought in this school year. With everything that was going on with COVID and remote learning and hybrid learning, we chose to not do a full implementation of our new K-5 language arts curriculum. We chose to just focus on the training of the K-5 language arts curriculum. Teachers were able to look at the materials, start using some of them if they chose to. We were looking to do a full implementation along with additional training provided at the start of the 21-22 school year. So we've been able to identify the materials, provide some training. We'll provide more training, and then that'll come over. The other thing that we're looking at is our Envisions math curriculum. With us having a new language arts curriculum, we didn't feel like it was a good time to also then switch and get a brand new math curriculum as well. We have seen progress with our math curriculum, and it's been nice because it does run K through 8. So our students have that continuity from one grade to the next as far as the build up and progression. We will be upgrading to their 2020 version. Most math curriculums now come with licenses. It's no longer like you're just buying a textbook and you're good for X number of years, however long you choose to. Remember when you used to write your name in the textbook and you would write like each year a new kid would get it and you would see like 20 lines? It's no longer like that. You have a license for 5 to 6 years, and after that 5 to 6 years is done, you lose the licenses and you have to kind of re-up your amount that you're using. So that's something that we will be doing for math in grades K to 8 this year coming up. 2013 to present, I always like to include that slide because in 2013 is the year that your board brought in all the administrators, and it's a good way for me to keep track of everything that we've done as a district. It's my favorite part. I love this page. When I feel like I haven't done anything well, I'm like, oh, I've done a couple things. We've done well together. And then that's all I have. So any questions? Yes.
It looks like when the new COVID relief work, we could get as much as 1.2 million. What kind of restrictions?
Can I answer that question?
What kind of restrictions?
All right, so in the American Rescue Plan last week that we received, we got that information after I sent out my report to you guys. We got it on Thursday. I usually do my stuff on Thursday afternoon. The House Education Labor Committee, they give you the estimate numbers. The estimate number we got was $1.1 million. But today it changed to apparently the estimate's $1.2 million. So as Dr. McCarron said, there's still some things we have to do before we receive it.
The third source had a different numbers that was between the two.
Oh,
So we've
Okay.
gotten 3 different numbers so far.
Well,
I guess my question is.
yeah, I want to give you that breakdown. So 20% of the funding is provided in that rescue plan is intended to address and remediate. They use the term learning loss. I refuse to use that term. So to address remediate learning acceleration, as we like to call it, because you can't lose something you never had, Mr. Buckheim, correct? So, and that's for students. The remaining funds can be used for upgrading and repairing ventilation systems, implementing social distancing, purchasing PPE, and investing in support staff to care for students' health and well-being. So that's something we hope to look into if we can maybe get some counseling services beginning next year, mental health counseling services for our students, that we can use the money for that. But keep in mind, once again, that's a one-time deal. That's not going to happen every year.
Is it, can we use that to, correct me if I'm wrong, like if we wanted to use that for like the boiler and all, because that would help.
Yes, that would be, yeah, anything for, again, to upgrade and repair your ventilation systems, that money can be used for. Yep, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it.
But we don't.
It's been different in the 3, so, I mean, we'll always take as much as they want to give. If they give me a choice, I'll say the 1.2.
And one thing we always like to point out is as the public is finding out the information and they're getting notifications, whether it be on Facebook or the news, as far as the funding and see how much money your school got, that's the same time that we're finding out that we're receiving the funding. So oftentimes we get the question of, oh, well, what are you doing with, X number of dollars? And we're like, oh, well, we just found out also. So it's one of those things where, we're trying to figure out what applications will we have to do, what grant process will they make us follow? And we don't have a lot of those answers at this moment, unfortunately. Hopefully soon.
Any other questions about them?
Questions budget related about the budget presentation at this time? No? All right. Thank you, Dr. McCarron. So we have public comment on agenda items only. If you would like to make a public comment on agenda items at this time, could you please unmute yourself?
Have you seen anyone? I
do not see anyone either. You can, if we move forward and we didn't see you, just please shout, unmute yourself and shout. So if there are no public comments on agenda items only, then Mr. Iannucci can give his superintendent's report.
Sure. All right, good evening once again. District enrollment held steady at that 834 students. Some of the things that we've been working on since the last time we met, we continue to gather information for preschool and kindergarten registrations. Unfortunately, that's going to look a little different again, just because the setup we're going to be, limited to as far as gathering people and things. Those things are still in effect, but that information will go out. Ms. Yezi's been working on that with her staff, and we'll get that out as soon as possible. Summer programs, we hope to have all that information put out next month, which isn't that far away. We've been working on, kind of altering some of the things we have to do for our summer program to follow the guidelines. Dr. McCarron actually worked on that again this morning. Again, those programs are going to look different, but we hope to have a summer program in place beginning, what do we say, as soon as...
It was
last week in June, correct? And again, all that information will be put out, so if staff will be hired for that as well. We're still looking for people, in certain areas. And I'll talk a little bit about a reopening plan in our next phase coming up in a minute. Just to remind you, food service still continues on Fridays from 10 to 12 at Volts. We will make a slight change coming up on April 1st. That's a Thursday. I spoke to Ruby in our food service department. We're going to supply the 2 weeks of meals that day because we're off the following week, and there's going to be some, light maintenance things going on in the kitchen that they have to do, clean out freezers and refrigerators and things like that, and get that cleaned up. So we'll get that information out to the families. As I mentioned to the board in an update last week, the USDA did announce that they're extending the waivers for school children for receiving free meals, and that will last through just September 30th of this year, and we will continue our food service distribution throughout the summer. Dr. McCarron just did a great job with the budget presentation. We continue to hold those weekly meetings with the health department and the county office reviewing our protocols and planning for not only for the springtime, but for our end of the year programming. As I mentioned in previous months, we do plan on having graduation. Triton is allowing us to use their football field, so that's going to look a little different. We did secure, along with Black Horse, Pike, and Belmar, sound equipment company that will assist, because you're outside, so, a little karaoke microphone's not going to probably cut it for that event, so they'll have something set up for that. And I'll get you the dates and times and everything else for that, as we get closer to those dates. I do want to thank the Finance Committee for meeting last week. We met on a Zoom to go over some of the stuff Dr. McCarron and I talked about as far as the budget presentation. So Monday, I know we've talked at length about this. We will be shifting our hybrid schedule to 4 days a week on March 22nd. I just want to highlight for anybody who's listening tonight some of the things that some of the changes that might be made. Our hours of operation are going to remain the same. The number of students in each classroom will increase. We're currently working with our teachers and our maintenance people and administration to make sure that students are as safe as we can, space them apart. There will be some classrooms, however, where students will not be 6 feet apart. In those classrooms, we'll have extra partitions up and things like that. But I just want to let you know that every classroom will not have that 6 feet social distancing. For lunchtime, if that's unable to happen with the 6 feet, larger classes will be eating in various locations inside and outside of the building, as they've been doing all throughout the year. The tricky thing about end of March and April, usually get a little more rain and stuff, so we'll have to watch that. But I know they've also set up some, the courtyard here at Volts with some tents so they can use it outside. But any inclement weather days will be a little bit of adjustment, so let's hope for a nice, dry spring. We do ask that all our hybrid students, the expectation for now is you're coming Monday through Thursday, and that they consistently continue to show up. It's unfortunate to our staff and our students who are here if people are keeping their children home. If a student's sick, obviously they don't want them here ever. That's not good for this child to be here when they're not feeling well. But just because, an excuse if they were up a little bit late or they have something we just need the kids here, because it really does disrupt the flow for our hybrid students. They can just log on at home, they won't miss a day. That's really not the way we want. If they're signing up for the 4 days, we want them here for all 4 days. Again, with the increase in class sizes, and if we do have a confirmed case, we let the parents know this, there's just a possibility that the entire class and the teacher will have to be quarantined. And they won't be for an extended period of time. No matter if they were, 3 feet away or 6 feet away or just inside the classroom, if that could happen. So that is a possibility. We're hoping that's not the case. Speaking to some other districts that have had kids back in school now for a couple of weeks, they haven't had issues where they've had to shut anything down. So it's been a good thing. And just keep in mind, if you've made this decision's in effect for the remainder of the year. For 2021 school year, we don't know anything yet about what next year is going to look like. We're just trying to get through, this school year the best we can. And as of this time, Fridays remain asynchronous learning days for our students and staff. Our intention, if everything goes well, is to explore other options moving forward. I can't put a date on that for you. I don't have a date for you. We're not increasing to 6 or 7 days a week, as like some people would like, I'm sure. But right now, Fridays remain asynchronous, and if everything goes well and we can get everyone back in safely and still follow our cleaning protocols and everything else, we will look into those options. And I believe that is all I have for you. Any questions you have for me? I do appreciate not only the board, Dr. McCarron, our administrative team, our teachers who continue to do a great job each and every day under stressful, conditions. And I expect nothing less from anybody moving forward. So I do want to thank everybody out there. Ms. Davidson. Yep.
That waiver that we for all students, that money has to be paid back at the end of the school year for non-free and reduced lunch. All free.
Everything's free. So the question asked was, does the money have to be, for students who would not be free and reduced, have to be paid back? And the answer to that would be no. It's all funded, yes. Yep.
So does that mean that our food service workers would possibly have to work over the summer then, I'm assuming?
Yes.
If they want to?
Yes.
Obviously.
Yep.
And I'm also assuming that I'll get them text messages all summer?
You will get, yes, you will.
Oh, great. Thanks. I can't wait.
We'd like to get the message out there.
I actually have another question in return. That was my one question. My other question was, do we think at the April 27th meeting, since it's pretty late, that could we have an update in response to
Yes.
possibly moving to 5 days a week? Because I was under the impression that we're cleaning thoroughly all day, every day, so clean.
If everything's going well, our intention is to have a new update, if not that day, but hopefully maybe even before. But I don't like to put dates on things during
Well, I know, but
COVID because.
But what I'm saying to you is with well, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm pulling out my phone real quick, but that would be 1, 2, spring break, we wouldn't be here, 3, 4. That would be the Tuesday of our 6th week here in school, and other districts close to us and in Camden County are opening up 5 days a week with the abbreviated schedule, because we still are on an abbreviated schedule as well, hours-wise, too. So,
We're one of the only school districts, I believe, serving lunches. That's been a big thing, is going to half-day schedules. We try to avoid that. Serving lunches during the day, a lot of the schools are just doing like an 8 to 12 model.
Correct?
Having lunch in school, having lunch.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not serving lunches.
No, we're not serving, I'm sorry. No, we're not serving lunches, but we're one of the only schools that's having a lunchtime. Most are having a half days, which can cause some.
There's definitely been some other districts that just made announcements today, like Stratford, 5 days a week with around the same hours of us. So obviously the kids will have to eat there as well too. So, but we are one of the only ones who've been doing it since the beginning of the year. But I did think that after our meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we were looking into the spring. Just because I'm only bringing that up because if we were looking at something like our next meeting is a little bit later, so it's not 1 month away, it's a little bit longer than a month away. So that's why I wanted to bring that up, as well as the...
Again, it's not something, if we make decisions before or after a meeting, this fortunately we wouldn't need an approval of the board. I'll definitely give you an update on that. But there's definitely our intention is to, and hopefully the numbers continue to remain down. I mean, absolutely have been, and, knock on whatever this desk might be, knock on wood, we hope they remain low. And I do want to thank our staff too, who, have either gotten vaccinated on their own means, or we did work with the County Health Department and Department of Education last week, and I believe we had over 30 staff members who had signed up to get vaccinated. They were unable to get appointments previously, so that was a good thing. So that's still open for the next week or two moving forward. No, we cannot disclose the amount of people vaccinated, what teachers, that some people have asked that question, that there are some medical privacy things that we have to follow.
Oh, you mean like parents ask that?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
No, that's not. That's
no.
That's not. Okay. All right. Yeah. No. That's private information, and we'll have to protect our staff, of course. All right. Anything else, Mr. Iannucci? You're good. Any other questions for Mr. Iannucci? All right, Dr. McCann, you have anything else for us? You've been busy with the budget.
So it's been budget, and then also with state testing, they just came out with stating that for state testing, what they're doing instead is they want to show whether or not students are progressing throughout the course of the year. So in grades K to 12, in language arts, math, and science, teachers will be using an assessment. It could be any assessment. It could be a benchmark. It could be a test in a class that they provided, and they then need to show whether or not the students in their class were at, above, or below the standard of achievement. As a school district, looking at the report that I'm expected to fill out, I will have to fill in, so for example, let's say kindergarten. Once I collect the data from my kindergarten teachers, I will have to put in the number of students in kindergarten, what type of assessment was given, whether it was a benchmark assessment, a teacher-created assessment, whatever that assessment was. And then I have to put in the information regarding the percentages of those above, those at, and those below grade level. I then have to put in the demographic information for that grade level, as far as what percentage of each falls within those categories. So it seems like a very general form. The question then becomes, as a district, what's the best way of gathering that information for our teachers? So Mr. Benor and I started talking about that today, since this just came out yesterday. So that way we can try to come up with some type of format that our teachers will be able to submit that information to us. Because one thing that the state, whatever information we collect, we need to be able to produce should we ever be asked where we got that information from or how we came about it. So we're going to try to make it as user-friendly as possible for our staff members. And of course, that information came out February, I think, 25th. And they said that whatever test was given should be between November. They give like these dates of November 1st through February 15th. So they give dates of time periods that you weren't aware that they were collecting the data from. But all of a sudden now you're pulling information from that time spot. So we're going to work to make that as user-friendly as possible. Any questions about that?
I have a question.
Go for it.
So, can you use like this star reader in math that we already use, so teachers don't have to do additional work since they're already...
Correct. The concern, though, then becomes in K-12, they're also asking for science, which is interesting because science is only assessed in 5th and 8th grade. But now they want a science assessment piece recorded for each of those grade levels.
When most districts in the state were remote and had no idea that they were going to need any of this information.
It's a great point you bring up, yes.
Interesting.
So we're going to make it as user-friendly as possible, as we do with everything, and get through it together is our goal. One thing I want to jump on Mr. Iannucci's talk with food service is we've been audited for food service, and we had our final closing meeting. And I have to say that our entire food service team was they were commended over and over again by the auditors at the state level as far as what we're doing, all of the text messages that we're putting out to reach families, the way in which we're collecting the survey data. So I do have to commend Ruby, her entire team, the ladies in my office for all the hard work that they're doing and all of that great stuff. And then of course it's budget time. So I've been busy with numbers. The numbers.
I just want to say that I'm very grateful, and I know so many people who take advantage of, and I wish more people would. It's just that, like Maria, since I'm a board member and I have a child in the district, I get the emails and the text messages twice. So it's like boom, 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 boom all the time. So I'm just kidding with you, but I'm actually very happy that that'll be available to and I know that Mr. Iannucci loves to drive the van around and make deliveries, because I don't know if every board member knows that, but if people aren't able to come here, they will deliver to their homes. So it is a big help to people in the community. So yeah, so I kid with you, but we're very grateful that we can that the USDA allows us to do that for our community.
5 years ago, how much paper was sent home per child about every announcement was sent home. We had 5 children, we got 5 times. So
yeah.
It's nice to have it digital, I should say.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes. All right, so any other questions for Dr. McCarron? No? District reports, any questions for the principals or building and grounds, special education, nurses reports there? So just for people at home who can hear, Mrs. Sams asked if there's any minimum or maximum spacing.
I mean, we won't have any children on top of one another like we had in the past. We're looking, that approximate the 3 feet at least in some of our larger classes. Some teachers have gotten very creative, even if they have 17 or 18 kids, strategically placing things around. We've removed some other furniture that, might be in a classroom, so we're able to do that, but, I'd say that the minimum would probably right now be 3 feet.
Is there anything like a requirement that they?
Well, the county officers say you should still continue to do the 6 foot. Again, but it's what you can do. What we're trying to do. But we have ordered extra plexiglass dividers, and not only for desks but tables and things like that. So those places where it's a little bit tighter, there'll be some additional, barriers in place, especially when the children are eating. Regardless of that. That's a good question. Thanks for asking.
All right. Anyone have anything to report under the reports, committee reports? Go ahead, Jess.
Within County Educational Structure Commission, only 2 things we really were addressed was Dan reminded everyone that we need setting out the financial disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
And he also mentioned that it will be giving all board members information to get ready to begin his evaluation.
Yes.
And then the last thing is, with me not running again, I will have to step down from this commission. You have to be a board member. So you're going to need to think as a group, someone to replace me in January of the new year.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. So, just so you know, that's what I held up to Mark earlier today when I said your eval, we have to start his eval. So Mark, you and I will chit chat and he'll get his part of moving, and just like in the years past. And also, if you did not do your financial disclosure yet, Dr. McCarron can help you with that. Could you check me? Because I did it. Because you have to download it and submit it. So while you have your Chromebook right now, because I tried to do it on my phone and Dan tried to do it on his phone, and it just isn't going to work. So make sure we would get that done. So the only one who isn't here is Angel. So if you didn't get it done, you should do it tonight. It doesn't take long. It takes a few minutes, and it's imperative that you get it done. So same thing over here, just like the Camden County Educational Services Commission. Anything else on Naomi School Board related?
Just real quick, I had a wonderful opportunity to be on a committee that got to interview for the state board elections, the president, vice president, finance, and county activities. And it was a really great opportunity. I met a lot of people via Zoom, of course, in New Jersey, Central Jersey, and that we just got to interview people. So many enthusiastic people wanted to serve on the state level, and we did choose our representatives, and I believe it'll be voted upon at the delegate assembly.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's the next step. So that was kind of an exciting, rewarding.
Yeah, thank you for representing us.
It was a lot of, it was a very early morning Saturday. I was not happy, but it went very well. So.
Great. Nice. Anything else? No? All right, so if there's no other unfinished business, then we can move to new business. There is nothing this month for property and transportation, but under personnel, I need a motion to approve items numbers 1 to 4, please. Motion made by Chaz, second by Naomi. Any questions? Oh, lots of babies coming. Roll call. Love babies.
Mr. Buckheim. Ms. Davidson.
Yes.
Mr. Lego. Mr. Murray. Ms. Panzarella. Ms. Sams. Ms. Spalding.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So we have finance. I need a motion for items numbers 1 through 5, please. Motion made by Dennis. Can I get a seconded by Patty? Any questions? Roll call.
Ms. Adair. Mr. Buckheim. Ms. Davidson.
Yes.
Mr. Lego. Mr. Murray. Ms. Panzarella. Ms. Sams. Ms. Spalding.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Under curriculum, I need a motion for items numbers 1 through 5 again, please. Motion made by Chaz, seconded by Naomi. Any questions? Roll call.
Ms. Adair? Mr. Buckheim? Ms. Davidson? Mr. Lego? Mr. Murray? Ms. Panzarella? Ms. Sims? Ms. Spalding?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Under policy and public relations, I need a motion to approve items numbers 1 through 4. Motion made by Maria, second by Patty. Sorry, I only stopped like that because I did look at the calendar, but I forgot. I'm not going to ask a question. Roll call. I just don't have it in front of me, but I'm good.
Ms. Adair? Mr. Buckheim? Ms. Davidson?
Number 14, recognition of students and staff.
That we're above that policy and public relations. That's just a typo. That's okay.
Mr. Lego? Mr. Murray? Ms. Panzarella? Ms. Sims? Ms. Spalding?
Yes.
Motion passes.
At this time, we are open for public comment. If anyone on Zoom would like to make a public comment, could you please unmute yourself and state your name? Please stop doing that, Ms. Rainucci. I don't see anyone who wants to make a public comment at this time. I'm just going to double check myself before we move along, because Dr. McCarron is sharing his screen. It's hard for me to see like a whole view. Okay, you're good? All right. So with no public comment this month, we will move to no executive session this month. Our next regular Board of Education meeting, again, is later in the month. It'll be here. It's our public hearing of the 21-22 budget on April 27th. Is that 7 p.m.? Is that going to be open to the public or on Zoom too, since it's a public hearing? Still be Zoom? Okay. And any other questions there? See, right. So you won't do it again unless you have changes?
I have to do it.
You have, right, yeah, that's what I thought, okay. But I didn't know, like, since it's an official public hearing, if you were going to open to the public. That's what I was asking. Zoom, okay. I need a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Maria, seconded by Dan. All in favor? Ayes have it, meeting adjourned, 7:57. Have a good night, everybody.